Wait, Jordan's going to go into this rabbit hole.
It's all right.
The pod.
He can do that. Who gives a fuck?
Favorite animal? Ooh, that's a good one.
Mine's, I really like...
actually, I want to say something about that.
What, your favorite animal?
I'll go to preferential voting, but we'll go to favorite animal. What is your favorite animal?
No, we go preferential voting.
No, animal first. Animal first.
Priorities,
Animal first.
Eagle.
You do love eagles.
I love eagles.
And you hated eagle boys, and fair enough.
I didn't hate it. You hated eagle boys. Why do you keep mixing it up?
My life.
It was just funny to me that you hate eagle boys
Eagle
so
Boys
much.
sucks, dude. It sucks ass.
But like,
And they got rid of Pizza Haven as well. That was the real shame.
What's that?
It was a worse Pizza Hut. Like Eagle Boys.
Oh, that's right. Pizza
But it's just-
Haven.
Black and pink is such... It's garish.
Yeah,
Speaking of
yeah.
not favourite colours,
Yeah.
Jesus. Why would you make that as the...
I don't know.
It just reminds me of
Eagle
one of those
Boys.
old women that was from the 20s that has one of those long cigarette lighters, which is very old. Just sad.
Kramer.
I used to be in films with Charlie Chaplin.
Yeah.
Did you know that?
Yeah.
I barely know who Charlie Chaplin
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
I don't know you.
Exactly. Mine's probably a whale.
a whale.
Yeah.
What?
I like whales.
Ah, since when?
I do like them. They're cool.
Why? Because they're big.
Because they're mammals and they're massive. And yeah, they're big.
Because they're big.
Yeah.
Because they're big. What about smaller whales? Doesn't cut it for you. Have to be...
Not interested. Fuck smaller whales. Nuke the whales.
What
except
about-
for the big whales.
What about dolphins' less intelligent cousin?
Porpoises.
Porpoises.
You know, they're not without their charm.
They're not without their charm, are they?
They're not without their charm.
Wait, what's yours?
It's not a porpoise.
Koala.
I do like koalas.
Yeah,
a lot.
koalas
You
are
know what? Actually, this is a pretty stock standard answer, but I got to say, dogs.
I knew
No,
you
no,
were
no,
gonna
no.
start.
It's come on, like it's pretty hard to go past a platypus.
Yeah, platypus. They're a freak of
'Cause they're
nature.
so
Mysterious
freaky.
freak.
Freak of nature.
Wasn't there like
Yeah.
the first person that saw a platypus thought it was fake?
I think he was
Not
like
the
hung.
first.
I think he was
Any.
like hung. Wasn't the first one like treason? No such thing. Ugh. And he was like, I regret nothing. Ugh. I think that's what happened.
I sentenced you to 50 lashes until you admit that you're a beaver.
I swear that happened. You know an elephant was hung once?
Yeah, many times actually.
Many times.
Yeah.
Bring on El Nino. We deserve it.
Oh yeah, I saw.
Nah, it had it
I
coming.
saw a picture of an elephant
Oh,
being
fuck
hung.
off. You saw it.
I saw a picture of
You
an
wanked
elephant
off to
being.
it.
Yes, because that's what gets me going.
I can't believe you did that, Ollie.
But have you seen that picture? I'm gonna show it up to you.
Oh, I
Yeah,
don't,
I've seen it.
I don't
Jamie,
wanna
bring
see
that
it.
shit
I don't
up.
want to see it.
But elephants are intelligent. He knows what he did.
What did he do? What did he do?
Murdered someone.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Yeah,
And
he
they
did.
proved
Look
it.
at
Oh,
that.
for fuck.
Look at
Oh,
that.
that's fucked. That is fucked, dude. If there was ever a picture that encapsulated that man has
Gone
too
too far.
much power,
Yeah.
the dominant species, it's fucking that.
All right. Before you say something, how different is that to a shark being culled because he ate some wanker while
Not that
surfing?
different. That's fucked too.
Same exact deal, and we do
No,
it all
that's-
the fucking time.
But that's such a disturbing image.
Shark holes are fucked.
It is. It is. I'm not saying it's a good idea by any means.
Fucking.
But I'm just saying, like,
You love it.
The optics of it are bad, but we kill sharks all the time for that reason, and no one gives a shit.
They do give a shit. What are
We
you on
killed
about?
that fucking. We killed Harambe. We shot him. Is shooting an animal any different from hanging him? Actually, it is.
Yeah,
It is,
way
it is.
different.
I take it.
You
back.
say we like the Earth is a collective.
You know
fucking-
what else
I
as
take
well
that
is
back,
really
but
sad
not
about
the
the
invasion
elephant? He
part.
would know what's going on too.
That's fucked.
It's like you think it's guilty. He's like, I deserve this, guys.
No, not that I
do-
deserve this, just the, like any last requests. I think that it would probably sort of understand what that means and just be like, oh shit, I can't speak English.
But I want Twinkies really badly.
They better chuck some peanuts or something.
I hope it had a decent last meal. It's probably just lettuce.
Well, maybe it was the
Well, it's
man
probably-
that he ate.
I don't think he ate the man.
What happened? I don't know the story.
This is so retarded.
Murderous Mary was a 5-ton.
Did he have it coming?
No, they're eating the man part.
Oh, it used to perform at a circus. Of course, it's gonna kill people.
Yeah.
This, back to it. This is
Unbelievable. Forced into a completely fucked artificial environment, and he lashed out. That deserves death.
horrible, isn't it?
Fucked.
It happened in Tennessee.
Oh,
Oh, jeez, it just keeps coming forward.
Of course it fucking did. Of course. That's probably how an elephant is being hung right now in Tennessee. What are the chances?
Right up until now, I always thought the South had a point. Now I'm glad they lost the Civil War. It's the same thing with Palestine all over again. As soon as you're cruel to animals, I'm out.
Exactly. That's it. That's what gets you like over the line every time.
All right, we've got
That's
one more.
amazing.
This is a very niche question that none of you can answer. Favorite Desi sweet?
I can't answer that.
Can you? Which one?
You gave me one Desi sweet. So by process of default, it has to be the one that I can't remember the name of.
But what was it?
And it sucked as well.
What was it like?
It's just one of I think you were saying this like, this is from one of my friends who is inexplicably wealthy for making the part in clocks that are purchased exclusively from the military and these lollies. They taste like the clocks. Yeah.
There's a
clock
crossover in
I
the
don't know
factory.
what sweet that is,
It
but
was one. Your family, one of your friends is a very boring Willy Wonka.
oh yeah, of course, yeah, he had a chocolate factory. You're right.
Yes.
BP. Oh, was it just a chocolate?
BP.
Yeah, it's called BP.
That name's taken.
Dude,
Did you know that?
that fucker is so, and they made so much money from selling chocolate. This is
BP.
when
you
you-
don't need marketing skills in Pakistan, do you?
a BP burger. It was a burger. It was a lolly burger, I think. But this
What,
guy,
Caltex is
this
another
guy-
lolly?
This guy made so much money from fucking selling chocolate mist that I remember when we were kids, we used to go to his house. His house was massive. It was like a mansion. It
Yeah.
was huge. And not like, I'm not saying mansion under it. Like, it was like, there were places you almost had to use a car to go from one part of his house to another. But then, like, the street that you used to have to take to go to his house, the last time I went to his place, he was getting engaged, and the street was part of his house. I was like, how the fuck do you take the entire street and make it your driveway?
Did they do all the drums like boof, bip, boof, bip, boof
Yeah,
in
they had
the
all
street?
that. They also had the largest shrimps I have ever seen in my life. It wouldn't fit on a massive plate.
Oh, for fuck's
It was
sake.
from one end to the other. It was
Jesus. Like shrimp cocktail. That
and
shit.
they just like fucking stole the street, and because they're like so rich from selling these chocolate that the government didn't have the balls to say anything.
Chocolate Baron.
I'm starting to get an inkling that there might be a slight disparity in wealth in Pakistan.
So slight, ever so slight. He was his dad gifted him a Range Rover when he graduated from year 11, not year 12.
No.
Year 11, because he was
That-
the first person in his entire family
To
to have
graduate.
finished year 11.
Fuck.
How are they rich?
What's his name?
Hassan.
Not uncommon name.
Fuck, and now he's a comedian.
He's just
He's done it all. He's done it all. That is
He's
crazy.
doing exactly what his dad
my
was
favorite,
doing.
My favorite lolly is the one where it's like chewed up chewing gum with like sticks in it. It's a refresher.
I don't know what these are.
Remember that shit you gave me? We went to a Pakistani restaurant. You're like, this is dessert. I'm like, is this just twigs and like extra gum? And you're like, yes.
Oh, jalebi. Was it like orange?
I don't know, but it was fucked. They just
Anyway.
chuck some seeds in there. I don't know.
I
Not my taste. I'm a dessert snob, like gelato. I hate Asian desserts. I'm not.
I agree with you. And
Yeah.
I always say this to fellow Asians that we don't know how to do desserts well.
That's not. I'm not even gonna say that. It's
I'm
just-
gonna say that.
Really? Okay.
It's not as evolved like the whole dessert making process because they don't use ovens, which
Yeah,
really limits your.
Yeah.
Like Italian dessert is way better. Like
Sophisticated
we're good
French.
at other things.
Yeah. No, dude, your food
Yeah,
is
it's
like the
good.
best. Better than European food.
Yeah,
I
but
think.
dessert we're like one dimensional.
Yeah, it's just a bit. It's a bit. Like whenever I go to Thailand, like if I'm watching a cooking show, right? Whenever I'm watching a cooking show, which I do a lot, it gets to the point.
Don't say.
It gets to the point of the thing where it's like, oh, and we're getting some delicious Thai sweets on street food. I always skip over it. I'm like, boring. It's always so shit. It's like, what's this one?
Chocolate covered cricket.
No, it's just like, no, that, or it's just so like, it's like, this is a specialty. Sweet beans and rice. I'm like, and what's this one?
exactly.
Rice
Oh.
and sweet beans. Why do you put beans in a dessert?
That's what I was gonna say. Why do Koreans fucking love putting beans in dessert?
What are these
It's
beans?
like, am I eating a taco? Like, what is going on over here?
It's frankly, it's offensive to me.
You know, chocolate is discovered.
Yeah.
Just own it.
It's so good.
Own chocolate. Like, if Italians can own tomatoes, which came from the U.S.,
Do they?
Korean-
South
yeah.
America?
like the Americas,
I didn't know that.
potatoes,
And pasta's Asian. They took that too.
yeah. If they can own that shit and be real Nazis about
Yeah.
it, then like I think Koreans can
You know,
at least say
There's-
caramel.
in Napoli, there's a society, and it's like super powerful, and it's like the Napoli Pizza Society, and it's like stringent, very specific set of laws that you have to that dictate what constitutes a real Napoli pizza. And if you even go a little out of it, they're like, this is not a real pizza. Oh shit!
That's brilliant.
Oh no, no.
Well, that's making it into the final cut for sure. And the best part about all of that is we're due for a rental inspection. Very close to shattering all over my legs.
I knocked my face on the mic and it hurts really bad.
Oh my god, I can't handle it.
I literally borrowed this from my girlfriend. She's gonna be pissed off.
Ali, I knew it was gonna happen.
It's haunted.
I said to put a third hook. I'm so
Lasted
sorry.
until halfway through the night.
We have so much bad luck with hanging shit. Ali,
So much abuse
Glass
on
all
that
over
wall.
the place.
I'm
Do we-
so sorry.
Oh, I'm
Hall of
sorry.
Kings.
Do we?
Oh my
do
god, there's
something
glass
about it?
everywhere.
Nah,
Let's push on.
Let's just leave it there forever.
We'll push on for now.
So not do anything.
I'm more just upset because I
Oh my
really liked it.
God.
How we can only have something nice in this office for a maximum of 10 minutes. It's fucked. I'm so sorry, Ali.
No, I'm in trouble. Is what I'm scared of.
Dude, it's
Every
shattered.
week, this wall gets worse.
I
love it.
It fucking. I'm so
such a-
sorry, dude. I'm so sorry. You'll be fine. It's in the grand scheme of the universe, it's a blip. It's nothing.
That's a great perspective for right now. That is a man that needs to hear that. He's sweating from
I'm sweating.
Dude, in the grand scheme of things, think about it.
She told me I want it back.
Oh, God. I can't believe it looked sturdy even though I didn't see it. I assumed it looked sturdy.
But look, I think she can fix it.
You can fix it.
Yeah, look at it. Look, you get another frame.
Hey,
you,
dude. Hey, boys.
Repaint half of it. It'll
Boys.
just be a Mr. Bean job.
Boys, it's a metaphor for Kramer's career.
Oh shit! I said the N-word.
The Kramer.
But are people laughing? I'm sure they're laughing.
R.I.P. Ali.
Jeez.
Show me the damage.
We're keeping this in. I don't.
This is all.
This was the
Steve,
pre-show.
Make sure that the pre-show goes.
Doesn't
in
matter.
week.
This is going in. This time it's going in.
And also, just to top this off as well, just anyone watching now that's a fan of Isaac Butterfield, let them know that one of my female friends woke up this morning having a wet dream of you and literally came.
Holy shit.
You got to let him know.
Round of applause.
Go, Isaac. I was just thinking about it because his face, he's got a portrait painted with his face. This is Kramer.
Made you think of it?
Yeah.
Hashtag call girlfriend.
No.
No, we should call Nan about it. That's what.
Call hashtag. Call that.
Nan, first off, question one, do you know Kramer? No. Do you know what Seinfeld is? Is that some kind of wheat? I guess so. Yeah, fair enough.
And then you explain what it is, the whole situation. There's just a massive gap. She goes, "You're disgusting."
That's very offensive.
I'm really disappointed.
I'm really sad.
Shouldn't be disappointed.
No,
Ali.
it's
That was
fucked.
the best possible outcome.
Dude, I'm really sad for
Yeah,
you.
it's like it's Jackass.
Dude,
we were meant to do that.
I'm really sad, but it was funny. But you'll be fine. All in all, it's fine. It's just I'm pissed off because it was like, yes, the set looks amazing.
It's the end of a relationship. These things happen.
I'm gonna take a picture and send it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah, do it.
Or somebody just clip that 10 seconds and then let Ali send that as a GIF. So she has to relive it over and over. Please make a GIF.
Can someone make a GIF of that? You guys are smart on the internet. Can somebody ban Mole? I assume you can do it. Make a GIF. Make a GIF. That was so violent too. Dude, we can't hang anything on this wall.
No, it's cursed.
You poor fuck. You'll have to repaint it.
This is a
It
metaphor.
was amazing because I was also going to
to
have an argument saying, I don't see why my rent needs to go up. But I think at the end of this, I'll just say, so, yeah, we're going to have that rate. It's still at a 20% discount, right? No? You can't blame the guy for asking.
And then as you say it in the background, he just goes Psh, and he's like, 30%. You're like, fair enough.
Yeah.
Fuck. Ali, I'm so sorry, dude. I'm so sorry.
Call Neil. Why?
Why are we calling Neil?
What, Neil's hot take? Oh, I can't believe this. Oh my God. It's completely fucked.
It's completely ruined.
Oh my God. It couldn't be more fucked.
The frame?
All of it.
Yeah, only 2/3 of it is ruined.
What's the material?
Solid wood.
What's the thing made from? The actual image?
Cardboard. Cardboard?
Stop it. Stop it.
It scratched it. It's fucked. Ali, can I ask one tiny condolence, please? Can we just keep the picture and sticky tape it up? I want to keep it. I really like it.
Yeah, at least if it falls next time. I suppose we have to.
I'll buy it off her at a discount price.
Literally worth nothing, though. You may as well take that offer.
All right, fine, okay. I'm giving it up as well.
Dude, I feel like this is what your attitude should be right now. Just sort of like, I'm a nice guy. I try to do something nice, and then it doesn't work. This doesn't work out. Goddamn bullshit. Fuck the universe. That's what I'd be like.
Well, at least we now know that Ali is the George Costanza of the plot.
I should have just put that esky on top and then...
Definitely.
I can still do that.
No.
Nah, gonna, woulda, shoulda.
Don't do it now. You'll get glass in your hand. We'll push on. This is going on YouTube, the Stig. I'm sorry, but that's a rare, once-in-a-lifetime gold moment. As we call in the industry, pre-topper. I just made that up. But
Yeah, far out. It really was exactly what you just invented, wasn't it?
Yeah.
That was great.
it was crazy. Like, good content, Ali. Let's just think about
So
it.
we
that
keep
way.
the entire thing, the pre-show as
Yeah,
well.
we're keeping it
all
in.
of it. What's
All
your
of it.
favourite colour? It was
All
all
of
gold.
it. All gold. What's your favorite animal?
What's your favourite
Do you
animal?
like
That's staying in for
desserts?
sure.
Yeah, we're going to push on.
Yeah, 20 minutes on why Miss Love doesn't like beans and sugar specifically together. He likes them separately.
Separately, my favorite things. But on there, but together, no.
I'm with Miss on that.
All right, it's getting hot in here now. The Ukraine jacket's coming off.
Okay, all right. Well, so should we...
Does that help in condolence? He's taking off
Oh,
the
shit, he's
Crimea
wearing-
jacket.
And he's wearing
The wall.
the wall
It's
underneath.
it's a metaphor for that. Just another brick in Seinfeld merchandise being destroyed.
All right. Okay.
That would make you think, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would. Oh
Shall
god,
we-
I'm never gonna get over it. You guys have to talk for a while. It'll take me I reckon a year to get over that.
Should we start the pod then?
Yeah. Should we fuck off the little buttons?
Well,
Or
there's
should
no
we not?
point.
There's no
It's
point.
all
There's
going
no
in.
point.
This
We'll
is
just
the
fucking-
pod.
This
Welcome
is
to it. Thank you
fucking-
very much, ladies and gentlemen. Can I just say that you missed out on the best content if you just signed in then?
You did. You missed out big time. Serves you right for not signing in on time. You call yourself a fan.
Yep.
Nevertheless, we've got the even more gold coming. Just tell me, did the people laugh a lot?
I think so. I was literally hurt because I knocked over the fucking mic.
You got scared shitless as you should have.
Yeah. I thought
As
it
you
was going to
should've.
fall in my head. Anyways, so the
It's really
floods, they're pretty
haunting
bad.
looking
huh?
at
Leave it open, leave it
Kramer's face now. It looks like the Mona Lisa. It follows you around the room. It knows what we did to it.
It looks sad.
Doesn't it?
That's what we did. It's so fucking... Dude, if Kramer or Seinfeld were on this set, he'd be like, "Poof," I knew it was going to happen. Like, he would just be like, I knew it was going to happen. Yeah. Like, that shit would have been part of the... Like, I feel like they would appreciate
Told
it.
you should have used 3.
Okay, they said it was very funny. Anyway, yeah, let's just keeping on. Call Tong.
Just call anyone at this point.
Hey, Kramer is comfortably numb now.
Yeah.
Comfortably numb.
Comfortably numb.
Yeah.
Should I actually call her and tell her live and see how she gets
See what
mad?
she says.
I mean, if we want to keep going with the good
We
content.
should.
All right, okay, then put the Bluetooth one.
Yep.
No, this one. The one that has...
Jeez. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Fuck.
God, more goal content. The usual technical confusion,
Wait a sec. I got this.
followed by a... There we go. That's Bluetooth accessed.
All right, okay.
Should I do that as they talk?
Yeah, definitely.
Hey, I need the headphones so I can
Oh,
talk.
this is going to work for sure. She's going to
Speaker.
answer. Don't you worry.
Is it going to come through? Is it going to come through?
It's going to come through. Wait, is it even calling?
Well, I can't hear it.
You might have to-
There it is, loud and clear. That's the sound of a dial tone. For anyone watching out there, thought it was a drum.
She's at
what
rugby
you know about the world.
practice. So
She plays rugby?
yeah.
You're screwed.
Hey, Katie, just so you know, you're live on the pod. I have some bad news that I had to give you live.
Is this a great idea?
Yeah.
Yep.
It's a...
Okay.
So you know that Kramer frame that I borrowed from you?
Yeah.
So I hung it up on the wall.
And it fell off and it broke.
Yeah, it's shattered. It's in pieces.
Oh, well, that's a waste of all the money I didn't spend. I'm really disappointed.
You're okay with that?
Nah, I'm telling the teacher that gave it to me. He's going to get mad.
Can you fix it?
Well, I can put it in a different frame.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to help this situation, Katie.
Oh, you tore the poster.
What was it?
Well, replace torn with severely scratched, so I suppose there is a silver lining to this.
And like the bottom is kind of, the cardboard is ruined. But like,
I do wonder if he gave it away. The teacher that gave it to me was kind of work. I wonder if he gave it to me because of the bad juju associated with like racist Kramer. Maybe he'll be happy to hear it's torn.
Yeah,
Oh,
well,
this is the
let's
best
hope
case
that
Like
that's
work justice or something.
yeah, Miss Love wants to keep the picture.
You can do that.
Okay.
Cheeks, find something to replace the artwork on my door.
Okay, I'll do that. All right, okay,
All right,
well, have
love you.
fun.
Can we just
Have fun at
replace
work.
the painting with Katie, but dressed exactly the same as Kramer?
Consolation.
Would you
The
pose?
Katie.
Can you pose for that?
I love that.
So full of it.
That
She
would be
hated
sick.
it. She's just trying to be good. All right, well, I'll talk to you soon. Have fun.
Love you. Bye, guys. Have fun.
So it's not too bad. I don't need a GoFundMe page.
Wouldn't it be great if Dutton's Flood Fund went to that, reframing the Kramer?
Dude, you know what?
Finally, some use.
You got to keep her there. She was fine.
Yeah, because she was live. I kind of like put her on the spot.
Oh, so she's like, be a good person. I'll yell at him after. That's
She won't yell
amazing.
at me, but she would have been disappointed if I had told her.
It's a cursed wall.
All right, anyways, let's...
Except, oddly, for the picture of the Queen, Ali.
Yeah, it's because Kramer was a fake king.
Yeah.
Let's go chicken and I'm the real king that stay on.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, actually, that brings us to our first discussion on the pod. We're making a wall of kings.
Uh-huh.
There's going to be a wall of generals, which is going to have Miss Love and, of course, General Sherman, Robert E. Lee. They're all going to be there. And then there's going to be the wall of presidents for life, which is going to be me. Obviously, Ali's on the wall of kings. And we're wondering who else should be on there. Because I, for one, think that we should just replace the Kramer with Sean William Scott. Straight up. And Sean William Scott,
Wait,
later years.
Does that make the wall of emperors instead of kings?
Look, there is a lot of territorial dispute when it comes to Sean William Scott. Is he a god emperor? Is he a god? Is he a king? Regardless, I think he deserves to be on that wall, nonetheless.
He does.
Leaf go chicken,
That's
obviously.
that's not moving.
That's not going anywhere.
That goes, I go. That's my emblem. That's the general's emblem.
That's your picture of Dorian Gray.
That's right.
You age, it doesn't.
Upon my wall, chicken clucking at my hotel door. Discounts, 2 for 1.
Yes.
Coke
A
Zero.
rooster perched above my chamber door, screaming,
All right,
2 for 1 Tuesday.
we've got a few
chili and mayo,
recommendations.
more.
Put up a picture of Handball King.
What?
Yeah,
Kev?
true. Big
Kev.
Kev deserves to be up there.
Nah, how about the
Picture
real
of
Big
Mal.
Kev?
We did have a picture of Mal.
King Beasley.
Yes. Yeah, we did
No
have
one would be able to tell the difference.
Jimmy Fallon.
Jimmy
That would be so.
That'd be amazing.
fucked.
Jimmy Fallon. Like,
What are the wall of kings?
dude, that's fine. We'll just eat one of his Ben and Jerry's ice creams, flatten it out, and stick it on the wall.
Yeah, okay, right. That's happening.
Yeah, we'll do that.
Leighton
That'd be
Hewitt.
so easy here.
Yeah.
Leighton
Leighton
Hewitt, what do you
Hewitt.
reckon?
I thought you said
Chuck him
Lady Gaga. Leighton Hewitt would be great,
Yeah.
and Beck Hewitt.
Beck Hewitt. Yeah, okay, that can be a regal couple. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
Sometimes those portraits happen.
That's right.
What about Putin?
Yeah, well, no,
Okay.
no. Wall of presidents for life.
Ali doubling down on his egregious cancelable take last week.
It wasn't egregious. It was an error. I thought it wasn't going to happen, and it did.
I've just got to address that. That was pathetic that everybody in the comments, this aged well, this aged well. You make a prediction then, cunt. And then the other thing is, look, he was right on 99.9%
Well, look,
of it, I think.
I'll address.
Having not watched it.
I'll address it.
You
In the
fucking
last
idiot.
podcast, I said that I suppose while the tanks are rolling, that there was. I don't think that Putin is going to launch an invasion on Ukraine, and as you can tell, that
You're right.
happened. But
And that is why Ali is on the Wall of Kings.
that's why I'm on the Wall of Kings.
Yeah.
But I'll tell, I'll address it. This is what I got wrong. I expected Putin to act in a logical manner that would serve Russia, but he acted on impulse because what he's done now is not going to help him or Russia in the long term.
Right. So, look, this is the whole thing. It's like, if you gaze into a crystal ball, you're not going to be correct all the time. But here's where you went wrong, Ali. Afterwards, and this is what separates the men from the soothsayers, you're supposed to realign why you were correct and claim today that Russia hasn't invaded Ukraine.
Yeah, that too.
That's what you
Actually,
should have
they're
done.
only
Yeah.
they
You blew
never
it.
intended to invade Ukraine, but things have gotten out of hand, and now they kind of have to.
It's a body double.
But basically,
Exactly.
I think what this is what I think happened. Putin had put invading Ukraine on the table as a bargaining tactic for the U.S. and Ukraine to cave in and give him the concessions that he wanted. U.S. kind of called him on his bluff, and he had nowhere to go, so he tried to save his face by doing what the bluff was intended to be, which was launch an invasion. Now, anyways, look, whatever's happened has happened. I was wrong about that. But now there can be four scenarios.
We're in the war room here.
Yeah, what's your next prediction?
What's my next prediction? There's
You better
there's
fuck it.
four scenarios that Putin can now do. One, which I suppose Putin would consider to be in a way ideal, is that his occupation or his invasion is successful. He takes over Kiev and all of Ukraine. He installs a puppet government through a regime change, forces that puppet government to amend the constitution, make enshrining Ukraine as a neutral or a pro-Russia territory, keep a number of armed soldiers consistently in Ukraine to manage this, and that way he could have control over Ukraine. There's a few.
Yeah, let him have it, NATO. He's had a tough week.
There's a few really big disadvantages, or there's a real constraints in that. Number one, if he does that, then Ukraine is going to be sanctioned by the world because this new puppet government is not going to be recognized by any country. which means that Ukraine is going to suffer economically. And to compensate that, Putin is going to have to he's already depleting funds. He's going to use that to keep this government in power, kind of like the way China did with North Korea for the longest time. And also bear the cost of this constant occupation, which is a lot of money. Second scenario is that Putin agrees to a withdrawal by forcing the Ukrainian government to again stay neutral and as he would say, demilitarize the country, which means that you can't be part of NATO, you can't be part of EU, and that's the only thing that is going to make us withdraw.
Yeah.
If he does that, theoretically, it's a win, but it would be a loss in the long term because, first of all, there's no guarantee that 3 years from now Ukraine will stay that way. They might switch again, and there's a huge resistance in Ukraine, so he's going to have to constantly fight them either way, even if he does that. The third option could be that he tries to reach a peace agreement with the current Ukrainian government or Zelensky government and try to get as many concessions as possible and ensure that they don't join NATO and constantly face sanctions. The last option, which is the worst option, is
Pushes
that
on to Germany.
He leaves.
Payback.
Jesus. That's what we wanted you to think.
The problem with the third scenario is that while he reaches a peace agreement, he's going to have to maintain his forces in Ukraine, which is going to hemorrhage his money. So he's going to be. So it's a matter of time, like when the sanctions get him. And
Is this the fourth one?
No, this is the third one. The fourth one is that he withdraws before a peace agreement, however, destroys every piece of infrastructure in Ukraine, which is a war strategy, unfortunately, as well. That you destroy basically everything, bring that country to like rubble and leave. And your basic statement is that if you ever do this again, we're going to do this. We're going to do the same thing again.
You forgot the fifth option.
What's the fifth option?
Nuclear.
Well, so the nuclear thing is a genuine threat. However, I don't think that nuclear threat will materialize unless NATO directly starts fighting the war. Because
I like those odds, given your track record.
I'm saying like if nuclear option.
See mushroom cloud.
Fuck.
Well, it could. I'm not saying it can't happen.
No, it makes
I'm saying
sense.
it
If NATO,
can happen
but
if
surely
the US
NATO
directly participates in the Ukrainian war, because at that point, Russia will have the justification as like, okay, now we're fighting a war not just with Ukraine, we're fighting the war with America.
Well, let's just cut to the chase because that's what everyone wants to know. Like, what are
What's
the
gonna happen
chances?
next?
What's the chances of NATO doing that?
Well, according to Biden, not a lot, because
Thank fuck Trump's
Biden
not
is
in
saying
right
that he is. He's been constantly saying that we're going to arm the Ukrainians, we're going to put these sanctions, we're not going to directly fight.
Yeah.
And he is saying that for that particular reason because he wants to
yeah.
avoid a nuclear holocaust situation.
I'm just really glad Trump's not in right now.
But this is why I think this
What
was
was Trump's point? Wasn't he just
I
like,
don't know.
Putin, he did a very good PR campaign. I saw that and I thought that was beautiful. And then I saw Biden's response and I thought that was very bad.
So he was
very weak. I would have had a much better
pro-Putin.
response.
Pro-Putin. Is that Trump's take?
No, he was pro the art of communications.
Well, that's him,
of
right?
Putin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think if Trump was in right now, he'd be like, I have no option other than to nuke both the Kremlin and Moscow as of today. We don't have an option.
and he would say that because thinking that those are two different things, Kremlin and Moscow.
Aren't they?
No,
No, and then he'll just
Kremlin
come
was
out and be
a small-
like, I was saying I'm going to bomb Moscow and especially I'm going to get the Kremlin.
What I meant by that was those weird spirally castles, they will also fall. And they will be falling.
There can only be one Disneyland, folks. Well, there can be three, but they all have to be in America.
Nevada and California are different states.
Now comes the unpopular part, which will get me canceled
Go
for
on.
sure.
Cancel yourself. But
It is absolutely, look, again, invasion, extremely wrong because this, by all accounts, even if you're Russian, this is really bad, which is why there's a lot of protests within Russia too, because is it worth putting your country through all of this for Ukraine? But let's not forget that the reason why all of this happened is because the Western forces really cornered Russia into a spot.
We should
where
preface this by saying there's a really interesting YouTube video called "Why the Ukraine Crisis is the West's Fault." I don't know what's the name of the professor.
I can't remember his name. I can look it up.
But it's a very.
It'll just come up that and pictures of hot chicks pole vaulting in the Olympics. That's all YouTube is at the moment.
But it's just
that old man and.
But it is a really interesting take. It's not actually saying it's all the West's fault, but it's saying. It sort of explains. I thought it was interesting in that it explained that Ukraine was the last sort of neutral buffer between Russia and NATO and the rest of Greater Europe. And the equivalency being like, if China, not that it's the same, but if China and Russia took Mexico and told America, like, this is Mexico, this is like the USSR now, this is Russia now, whatever. All I'm saying, these aren't black and white. Don't seem like black and white issues. They seem like there's always, and I'm not pro Putin at all, but I'm saying like there's always going to be multifaceted, like geopolitical ramifications to these.
You know what? I think we actually are just ethnically more experts on this than you are, Ali. I honestly think Mislav and I are just sitting there being like, it's a blood thing. He wants the revenge, Like, so you're thinking it's not rational, and we're just thinking like, this is the most rational thing. You want to get your revenge,
Well, it's not rational because even if I'm
not saying that. I'm not going to say that. But
if I'm like working for Putin, this is why I don't think the invasion was rational in any which way for Russian interests. Because what Putin wanted to avoid was Ukraine becoming a part of NATO, which means that Ukraine becomes part of the Western bloc, and any sort of animosity against them would result in a war. He does that by launching an invasion, and all the European countries that were kind of complacent beforehand were more interested in gas pipelines than war, and it was only America that kept talking about the Russian threat, are now going to realize that this is a big threat and start spending a lot of money on their defense military. The Nord 2 gas pipeline, which Germany really wanted, Russia really wanted, and America was putting pressure on Germany not to accept, is definitely not going to happen after this invasion.
Do you think?
Yeah, I think.
I gotta...
Because here's my bold prediction.
World War III.
You're just going to sit there and they're all going to be sitting around in the EU and they'll be sitting there being like, this is intolerable.
That's already happened.
With putting in sanctions. And then the soldiers will move out and then they'll look at the map and they'll think, no, gas is a lot easier to get from there.
It is. It definitely is.
So...
And not only...
the sanctions can't last forever, surely.
The sanctions depends on again, how Ukraine unfolds. If Russia occupies Ukraine and puts in a puppet government, which they can, if they can end up breaking the resistance, the sanctions will remain for the foreseeable future.
Yeah. If that's the scenario, but...
Someone just said, Rock OEC, the Travis Marsh said, shit, Jordies will predict peace. We're doomed. I got a question, though.
But, come on, like, so much gas.
Nah, but
no, there is definitely so much gas.
If there's political pressure, they won't do it.
And actually, like, a lot of these countries are kind of screwed. Well, Germany, for instance, has reserves until next year. And they're lucky in the sense that this crisis happened just when... the heating season is about to end. So they're going to move on and they'll have enough gas, even if like everything is cut off, until next year. Next year, they're going to have to find replacements, which basically means that they're going to have to get liquid natural gas, which they can get shipped from the Middle East. However, they have no infrastructure to receive this liquid natural gas because you need like LNG specific terminals. So they're going to have to spend a lot of money in developing this stuff and still have regular blackouts. So it's a tricky situation. But if the threat for them is that Putin could launch an invasion anywhere, they'd be more willing to do that. They'd be more willing to do that after the invasion than they would have been pre-invasion.
Here's the question though, Ali. Do you think that people will be talking about this a year from now? Or do you think it'll just
Well,
move
all
on to
those-
North Korea or something else?
No.
Well,
that-
people that were criticizing me and saying it was an ace take will have forgotten about it. They'd be talking about PewDiePie versus the world because he's about to take over every subscriber in the world. But people that give a shit about this are going to be still talking about it, and the resolution would need to be reached. We'll see where it goes from here, right? Now, but Putin needs a fucking out here. Because if you keep pressurizing him and you give him nothing even after this situation, maybe what Miss Love is saying about the nuclear scenario could be right. Because no country would want to use nuclear weapons because it's basically a suicide mission unless they feel that they have no other option left. So if Putin keeps losing, let's say Ukrainian resistance is so strong that they actually repel him, and then who knows what could happen. Like, it could very much be... so you really need to give him some kind of an out here.
I think in the EU, I do have enough faith in them that they would probably understand that scenario and think, okay, you made your point. And they'll give him some face-saving out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
sure.
if that happens, that would be the ideal scenario. And it's really unfortunate because, like, again, Ukraine is the one that's suffering over here. But, like, it should be said, again, this is a cancel-worthy opinion, but America used Ukraine as a bait over here. Like, badly. Russia is definitely to blame because they're invading a sovereign country. But the reason why they're invading a sovereign country is because America gave them false hope that they would be defended by the U.S. And they're not. Biden said that the troops aren't going to Ukraine. So, like, you really royally fucked over these people. And this is the point where that academic who did that lecture was talking about is like, Ukraine wasn't a core interest for America from the get-go. Whereas Ukraine was a core interest of Russia. Like,
They wanted it more.
well, because it's right next to them. For America was far, far away. You could argue that it was more of a core interest for Europeans than it was for Americans. And all this commotion began in 2004 when NATO was offered to Ukraine, EU and NATO. And which was bad in the sense that when NATO was an option for them, that if they ever get attacked, the entire Western coalition is going to help defend them. And so they severed their relations with Russia over the hope of joining the single European Union market and joining NATO. And when they actually needed it, they didn't get anything. So now we're hearing about like how it's a fight for Ukrainians to fight. And so if that was the case from the get-go, why were you dangling this NATO carrot to them in the first place that as soon as they took it, they got fucked over?
What about this? How confident are you that this will just blow over?
I mean, look, it's going to obviously blow over at some point, but
blow up.
everything has repercussions, and this is going to also have repercussions.
Yeah.
It remains to be seen how the repercussions... That's the other thing. Russia is going to be disadvantaged from it. America will slightly be disadvantaged from it. The main loser from this would be Ukraine because they're the ones whose country is being...
What about the EU?
fought at. The EU would, in the long
March
term,
on anyway.
not so much. Which is depressing, except that now some of their economies might go further down because of this Russian hostility. Because again, they wouldn't be as energy secure. But Ukraine's going to suffer from this for a long time. They already have. Like Ukraine has been in a quasi-civil war for the last 7 to 8 years. So they've already been suffering. This is just like a very brutal sort of way that it came to the world's attention. But this has been a problem for them from a long time. It started with like this orange revolution where the population wanted to, or a lot of Ukrainians wanted to join EU and NATO, and Russia said that that's not a good idea, and so they had to, they installed this government which is pro-Russian, and then there was a revolution where that regime was overthrown, and this new regime that was very pro-NATO and EU came along, and ever since they've been fighting a civil war because Eastern Ukraine is pro-Russia and Western Ukraine is pro-West.
So is the solution Berlin Wall 2?
That actually is also one of the other scenarios that could come about from this, which is that Ukraine gets partitioned into East and West Ukraine, where Western Ukraine would come under very much like a Cold War scenario, where Western Ukraine would become part of NATO and EU, and Eastern Ukraine would be part of Russia. And it's going to be divided along a river. And that could also be a scenario. But that would also be bad for Russia more than it would be bad for US, because that new Eastern European country is going to be heavily sanctioned, and Russia would have to pay the bill, which is going to be a huge amount of money. Also keep a strong amount of forces over there to protect it from the West, because the Western Ukraine and Eastern Ukraine are going to be fighting. So it's going to be, this is just a bad thing. That's going to be a net bad. It's going to be net bad for everyone in this case, particularly for Ukraine and then for Russia. And the least amount of it is, and America is going to be affected the least by it. And unfortunately, they're a huge player in it that contributed to this happening as well. And now, cancel
don't know
me.
anything about it.
Anyone that does not like this can suck my dick.
A lot don't like it.
I know, a lot of wouldn't like
What
it.
do they say?
Oh no, some do too. My question is, and to preface this, like with obviously like, you know, it's bad, it's horrible, it's people dying. I'm a pacifist, peace and love, man. Don't kill people, it's brutal. But why?
Pink Floyd shirt.
But why doesn't America? Why wouldn't they just opt for Ukraine being either a neutral country or just siding with America? I mean, if you look at the NATO map, it's like 90% of Europe. Like what? America's like, no, we need the Ukraine as well. It's like, why? What? Like, it's a dumb idea. Like, it's like, it is like, if it seems to me, it seems not that different to me that if Russia and China in a coalition came to Mexico and like, this is Russia now, it's obviously going to antagonize Russia. So like, I don't understand it.
But
It's not like it's not Germany. It's not fucking France. It's not England.
It's too late. You're right.
Like,
obviously.
not Lithuania. I don't even know what it's. Yeah,
But that's
I forget
what we
it's
were
called.
saying even before. That this is gonna.
It's not too late. It's not. No. But it's not too late now to say, look, I'm sure the Ukrainian people don't want. Maybe it is too late now. But why did it have to come to that? Why was there? Why like there should? I think there shouldn't have been U.S. pressure for them to join NATO.
Yeah, there shouldn't have been, but apparently that's a cancel-worthy opinion. Because
That's not cancel. I mean, it's like look at the fucking map of Europe and look at the NATO countries. It's all of Europe. So it's like, I mean, like it doesn't make sense. Like it's just like common sense that if you're technically just taking, you know, into this,
if you're gonna poke.
yeah,
the bear,
yeah, and it's like
the
you know,
bear could attack, and
Exactly,
the bear is
exactly.
fucking violent.
That's
and
what
he's
I'm
proved it.
That's what I'm saying, and like I understand it's probably complicated because I keep thinking Lithuanians. What's the country? Ukraine. The Ukrainians, obviously, you know, it's not unlike the Yugoslavian war in that they were promised like freedom in the West and all these values that the West promises or sees, you know, as seen as promised.
Hey, here's a win. Germany has just announced that it's going to move its 100% renewable energy target from 2050 to 2035.
They might have to at this
It was either
point.
going to be that or animals. It's nothing to do with the
Nothing
war.
else. Yeah,
Anyway,
Yeah, but
I'll tell you what, though, Ali, I think a lot of people actually do agree with you.
Well, I kind of know. I don't care as much, but I appreciate that. But it's really like I'm sure some people have differing opinions on this. I just don't. I think this could have been avoided.
yeah. I
I
mean, it's-
really think that
if you look
it
at the-
didn't have to come down
if
to
you
this.
look at
If
the-
you had given
Dude, I'll show you
that
the map.
motherfucker an out. He's also Putin. This is one of the other things. Putin's been in power for so fucking long now that this is why you need to have certain terms. Like you end up making dumb moves like this. This was a dumb move on his end, and it was just because he was like he's been there. His mind's gone now.
Really?
Because I don't think this would have benefited him in any which way. It was just an ego thing at the end. when he knew that he couldn't. He had done all of this stuff, which is like stationed the troops at the edge of Ukraine, threatened an invasion, all for getting those concessions of Ukraine not joining NATO and EU. And when he didn't get that, he was like, I'll fucking do it. And he did it.
Look,
like, it was...
If you look at that map,
But could you argue that it would be, from
the green.
Putin's perspective, if the Ukraine did become a NATO country,
Yeah.
that surely would be terrible for him.
That would be, for Russian, what they perceive to be Russian national interests, it would be terrible for them.
I think that's
It
what
would
they'll-
be
So
like
if he
that's-
stopped that, then that is a win for him.
If he can stop that, that is definitely a win for him. That's what this entire thing is about in the first place, of Ukraine not joining NATO. And
Look at the green. That's
but
all
the
NATO.
question is, can he do that now?
That green is all NATO, and so it's just expanding. I mean, like, I'm not saying it's right what they're doing, but like, it's a predictable.
Clear containment.
Well, yeah, it's a predictable.
Ukraine was
thing,
the law. Now,
you know?
then it's just Russia that's left.
and then like Biden will be like, "Would you like to join NATO?" to Russia. Basically, it's a nacho
Jack.
club. The N stands for nachos, the A for aerosol cans for the mosquitoes, T for Texas barbecue, and O for orange tang. That's what we do. We get together in France and have tacos. No, you don't have those up there, but I shouldn't joke about it.
He's
But,
probably right as well. There probably is that NATO that he's a member of.
but you know what I mean? Like you said, it is, I don't know. Like, it's all geopolitics, and it's like, I think it could have been avoided. And maybe the Ukrainian people wanted to join, but
Ukrainian people they voted over. This is
Yeah.
this is what also needs to be pointed out. Ukrainian people
Wanted to join.
overwhelmingly.
yeah.
Well, there was a vote and they wanted to join
Yeah.
NATO and EU. In fact, the current
But is it
president,
true?
Zelensky,
Is it true, though, that that was kind of like a corralled opinion? Because
Well,
that's
yeah.
what I've heard. That
What do you mean? What's that? What
It's
is it?
just any pro-Russian opinion
Oh.
has just been wiped off the airwaves.
well, that's because, again, Ukraine isn't just one place, it's divided. Again, I don't
There's
know
a lot
what
of
the
Russians in
fact-
Ukraine, right?
There's a lot of Russians
But
in
if you're
Ukraine,
hearing,
but not majority.
If the
Yeah.
only perspective you're hearing is here's all the benefits for joining NATO, and you're not hearing anyone say this is why you shouldn't join NATO, it does make sense that there would be an overwhelming vote to join NATO.
Yeah, but even the vote, like they did a poll on
Sub on
different,
Patreon.
different provinces
Sorry,
of
someone else.
Ukraine, of which provinces wanted to join NATO and EU and which ones didn't. All the ones that are Ukrainian speaking dominant provinces all wanted to join NATO, and all the ones that were Russian pro didn't want to join NATO. So the
Culture.
country is really divided in that way, which is why they've been in a state of civil war for some time now.
Maybe it is the best solution to just say, if you're Russian, you can go join Russia if you want. Maybe just do a referendum on it.
Well, that's what Zelensky is saying.
Really?
He was saying that we're going to have a referendum, or was saying that. Now, obviously, things are different with the invasion. But before the invasion, he said that we want to have a referendum. And if a majority of Ukrainians want to join NATO and EU, then we're going to join NATO and EU.
No,
And
no, no.
if-
I'm talking about a split. That's what the referendum should be.
Well, now, maybe that
Why-
that is one of the possible scenarios.
Okay,
just
listen,
a partition.
That would probably tick everyone's boxes.
Listen,
Well, not Ukraine. They lose half of their country if you're Russian, or it's like divide. Would you be happy if Australia was divided into two, or if US was divided into
West
north and
Australia
south?
listen to this. This guy's saying Russia wanted to invade Ukraine regardless. NATO is just an excuse. They just want the Ukrainian territory. Keeping Ukraine out of NATO is just a demand for which it makes it easier to. Why would they just want Ukraine? For their
Look,
economy?
now this guy believes that. I don't agree with that.
I don't know. You don't have to agree.
Why-
But I'm asking you. I'm asking the question. If that's what his take is, why would Russia just want Ukraine just for economic purposes? I mean,
I don't know. Maybe he's thinking they have like a colonial mindset and they want to expand their empire. Maybe that's
genetically they're the same people.
well. That's
You and me are pretty much them, young man.
Yeah, that's what I...
Yeah. So like there is.
I get it. I get blood feuds.
But
That's the whole thing.
there is an argument to be made. I mean, the
I
Yugoslavia
don't think this
war.
argument is right though. Like it's
Maybe it's not. Maybe I'm not saying it's right. I'm saying it could be a possibility.
it could be, but like
I think it's
but
more a
why?
possibility.
Why would anyone?
I think
just wanna
economic.
do it?
I think if that is true, I don't think it is either. I think economic reasons.
What is so special about Ukraine?
I don't know.
Does it? Okay, Ukraine
I
is
don't know.
famous
I don't know shit
for having
about it.
natural resources.
Right,
Right?
gas.
They've got gas and
Yeah,
oil.
yeah. Well, that's a
Russia has a lot more than that.
Yeah.
Ukraine is actually a big producer of grains and wheat, like Australia. Russia also has that. Ukraine has military and military equipment expertise. Russia also has that. So
But aren't they kind of a block for Russia's gas?
Yeah.
well, they're en route to Russia's gas. So like Russian
Yeah,
gas
so
if
they
needs to
can
go to
say,
Europe.
we can turn this off at any point.
Well, Russia could turn it off at any point anyways because it's originating from their country.
Yeah,
they have a lot
the
more
Ukraine
gas than
has
Ukraine.
a say on that, and so obviously Russia doesn't want them to have a say on
Well,
that.
yeah, that's also one of the reasons.
It
But
could
that's
be
also part
economic.
of the reason why they want Ukraine to be pro-Russia.
Yeah.
And which is why, like, in that scenario, if let's say in some scenario, that's also why they don't want them to be part of NATO. Because if there's that scenario where Ukraine unilaterally decides to stop Russian gas flowing from Russia to Europe, first of all, it would be difficult for them to do that anyways. Because, sure, Russia is sending gas, but there's someone that has to be receiving gas too. So if there's, let's say, Germany that wants to receive gas and Russia that wants to sell gas, what's the motivation for Ukraine to stop it? Because even if they stop it, they're making two enemies. So the only way that Russian would want to
there's the
stop
whole
it if
thing,
they've
right?
also
Like,
got Germans on their
Clearly,
side.
the Ukraine is a plaything for bigger powers. There's
yeah,
no
that's
actual.
obvious.
Is that true? The thing I highlighted
Russia doesn't have, what does it say?
doesn't have access between
Access
Belarus, and Crimea.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what Jordan is also talking
so
about.
there are blocks. So it could be an
Yeah,
could be an economic
which is why
incentive.
it's next to them.
But
Which
that's
is,
why I'm saying, like, it does make a lot of, like, it's not necessarily the Ukraine that would want to block gas imports, but the EU and the US might want to for adding pressure.
yes, if the
And-
US and EU want to, then Ukraine would do it.
Exactly.
Which means Russia has no one to sell their gas to. Because Ukraine is en route to Europe. Let's say if Ukraine was en route to China, then that would make sense. That there's two willing parties. You've got Russia and China that want to sell and buy gas, and then Ukraine can play a spoiler over here. But that's not the case. The spoiler that they can play is between Russia and Europe. So if US and Europe want to do it, then there's no point anyways, because who the hell is Russia exporting that gas to?
True, fair
So
enough.
I don't think, and plus Ukraine is small enough to not want to do that sort of stuff. When there's gas flowing from Ukraine, they're getting money from it. Like if you're using someone's territory, you have to pay money. And so the only way that they would want to do it if Europe was on their side.
Someone said Ukraine is looking at becoming the food basket of Eastern Europe.
Everyone's fucking wanted becoming the food basket, so are we. But what's wrong with that?
No, look, at this point, it's kind of, whether it's economic or because of NATO, it's like it's pressure. It's what they see as some
It's just
form
like
of pressure.
it's next to them. It's the
Yeah.
same. It's the same thing for the way America
New
looks
Zealand.
at Mexico.
Yeah, no, I'm
Or
kidding.
we would look at
No, I'm joking about New Zealand. But yeah, Mexico. Yeah, that's why I used that example about Mexico before.
If
but
New
like-
Zealand becomes a part of, let's say China was stationing their troops all over New Zealand,
I
and they had
just
this
used that
treaty that if
metaphor.
anyone attacks New Zealand,
did that.
China would attack them, we would be very scared by that.
Yeah,
So it's like you've got to you can't make Russia disappear. They're gonna be there, so you need to come with like some sort of a balance of power over here that can
I think it
lead
was,
to
I
sustainable
think,
peace.
I don't buy the economic thing. I think it was NATO and this sort of, whether you see it that way or not, a perceived encircling of like the West on your doorstep and being like, oh, we're just now, even if, just from a fucking map perspective, it's like, okay, we've taken another, Cassicone style, just took another big chunk on your border. That's now,
Because
where-
let's
you
not
know what I
forget,
mean? It's just
the Baltic
moving closer
nations
and
are
closer.
also part of NATO already.
That's what,
So
yeah.
they're literally being encircled.
That's what
if
I'm-
you're
that's what I
in
mean,
Russia,
yeah, yeah.
you're looking at
I think these-
every corner of your border.
Yeah, reverse Iron
is
Curtain.
being like taken over by the Western Bloc.
They're probably still
That
pissed
has
about
a-
Alaska too.
I would be. Jesus Christ, they sold it for nothing.
And the fact that it's right there,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm not going to pretend like I know the answer, but like, if you think this is a black and white issue, just Google American imperialism. Google that shit, because it's like,
But again, like I wanna say this, and this is because I want to make this point clear. Just because I'm saying that
Yeah, that doesn't mean you agree.
Is contributing to this disaster does not mean that I am saying what Putin is doing is right.
No, definitely not.
What Putin is doing is wrong, and not
good
just
to
from a
kill-
humanitarian perspective,
From
but
every
just from like a
perspective,
pragmatic perspective.
Yeah.
You're arming the entire Europe against you by doing this. All of these countries in Europe that were past this war stage after World War II and were focusing on economy are now going to be arming themselves. You know how like Trump was saying that Europe needs to take the bill for a lot of this NATO stuff. America can't keep paying for this. They're going to take that advice now because they're like, okay, maybe we do need to do that now.
So you were wrong, Miss Love. It would be better if Trump was president.
Is that what you're saying?
I don't know what Trump
Dude,
would
what
have
would
done.
Trump have done? He would have nuked him.
I don't know. I don't think he.
Dude, come on.
Maybe Trump might have recognized because he likes Putin, or it seems like he likes Putin. Maybe he would have recognized that you've got to give something. You know, you can't expect to keep everything and expect the other person not to
It seems
act
like
in a violent way.
Biden's...
Yeah, what's Biden?
Biden's not taking everything.
He's not.
No, Biden is taking everything.
But is
Yeah.
Biden still saying? Okay, so is
And
Biden?
now he might actually be successful if Russia manages to hit themselves in the foot with their sledgehammer.
So is Biden's take now? Ukraine is joining NATO. That's happening, right?
No. Biden isn't saying that at this point because that's all on the table now. So
Yeah,
no one
good.
is saying that because
I, like,
the settlement would include this part.
Surely there needs to be. I don't know, man. Like, I don't know. Like, there needs to be like a buffer zone. Like, it's not going to work out well for anyone. Unfortunately, the Ukrainians themselves, I feel like, are going to obviously suffer the most. Either way now. Either way, it's just going to be fucked. It's like Afghanistan. It's just going to be fucked. But strategically, it's like in a global level, it should like take the heat off and just say, look, reassess what the country should be. It's like maybe just look at Russia and be like, well, this guy's a fucking psycho. Like we can't join NATO.
Well, the ideal scenario in my view is, which I don't know how this is going to happen now because so much blood has already been spilled. Ukraine stays neutral.
That's what I'm saying.
Like that's the only way you can do this. You can't expect Ukraine to be part of NATO and then expect Russia. Because like if
Just
you
stay
really
neutral.
think that you want to make Ukraine a part, like you want to make Ukraine just like France or Germany, then the sanctions won't matter to Russia because at some point people value security more than economics. It's the same thing with us. You know, when shit gets too intense with China, China's putting like whatever, they're not importing our wine and shit.
Yeah.
Most Australians at some point will go like, okay, if genuine security is at stake, I don't care about getting less money.
Yeah.
So you've got to understand that Russia will do the same. Like if you give them nothing,
I
then
agree.
they will take your sanctions
totally
and
agree.
still be a pain in the ass.
I totally agree. It's like you can't. I mean, the fucking shit he was saying was like scary. Like he basically said we will nuke you. He said we'll nuke you. And his nuclear strikes are on his nuclear brigade army preventative whatever bullshit force is like on alert. They're like, they're all like standing by.
He's doing that to put pressure on the U.S. not to get directly involved.
Totally,
in Ukraine.
but like he's not. If someone's gonna do it, that motherfucker's gonna do it.
No, I don't think that at all. He's probably the biggest advocate against using nuclear weapons
Really?
in the world. He was constantly pushing for the US to go
Really?
back
Putin?
into agreements of disarmament.
Really? Putin.
Yeah. So I think that, look, as Ali said last week, it's a bluff. Well, obviously it's a bluff. I think the idea of an
did invade.
actual intentional nuclear strike is not going to happen. What's more likely is one of those nukes is not going to be checked, and that's going to go off.
Tactical.
That's probably what
Jesus.
But this is
that's
Jordan,
so fucked that that's a possibility.
it's a huge possibility.
I want to
Massive.
you might be right because I recently read a statement by a Russian diplomat who's obviously pro-Putin, but he said, "Is a world without Russia worth keeping?"
Jesus. Wait, what do you mean?
That's a fucked up
Is a
statement.
world without Russia worth keeping? Oh, because it's going to be fucked.
So basically what he is saying is if we're screwed,
you're all
we're going to
screwed.
bring the entire world down with
Totally,
us. And that
yeah,
is the only scenario for
Fuck.
a nuclear war where
Yeah.
Russia feels that they've got nothing and their survival's at stake. Let's say if Biden decides that we are going to counter this invasion by a full-scale invasion of Russia, getting every NATO country involved in this, that could legitimately
Yes.
lead to a
Oh, for
nuclear
sure.
holocaust.
For sure.
But anything where like Russia doesn't feel that their survival is at stake,
Yeah.
maybe nuclear war can be averted. But it's a slippery slope. You never know.
That's why I'm saying, like, you can't. This isn't like fucking a John Wayne movie. You need to fucking, like, you have to give some fucking breathing room.
Give some,
Otherwise-
take some. That
Yeah.
compromise. Like
Yeah.
people need to like.
This should the world end over another country joining NATO? Imagine if that was the end of the world. It's like, and what end of the world? It's like a small Eastern European country wanted to join. It's like, and was there any kind of economic advantage to them joining? No, not really. Kind of symbolic. Really, that end of the world, a symbolic gesture. Yes.
I hope that doesn't happen, but apparently as we speak, there's a massive convoy of Russian military headed towards Kiev. So maybe Kiev, we're gonna see a big battle over there.
It's ultimately it's really sad because they're like brothers. They're genetically the same people, essentially. That's the saddest thing. It's like the regular people are the ones that get fucked, and you know.
They're given false hope by the U.S.
I mean, you could say a similar situation for the Yugoslavian war, but you know, my family were on the side of pro-America.
Serbs, fuck this.
Yeah, well, my family are not on that side. Where they wanted independence, but like, yeah, I don't know. It's sometimes it gets frustrating because it feels like these issues are so there's so many different layers to it that it's like it seems impossible. It's like, but there's all these different approaches and opinions. It's like fuck.
But Jordan, I know you're saying that it could, but I just don't see this scenario benefiting Russia. I'm struggling to find how Putin could turn this around.
Send it this way, boy.
To favor himself. This is also unified Ukraine in a way, where you had a civil war where there was like Russian areas that were pro Russia, and then you had Western Ukraine that were pro West. Now, even the areas that were pro Russia were like, yeah, we like Russia, but we don't like tanks rolling out. They've all been told to evacuate. No one likes that. Like I don't think it's worth dying. They feel that it's not worth dying for.
Yeah.
Which means that there's a lot more Ukrainians that are now anti-Russia than pro-Russia.
Right.
Why did Ukraine want to join NATO? Did they have terrible lives under?
Well, they wanted security from Russia, so they couldn't be bossed around by Russia.
Right.
Which Russia,
How much
you can tell, does.
How?
And also European Union. They think
Yeah.
They think that by joining the European Union, their economy could really benefit.
How much did the Ukrainians suffer under Russia? I mean, what was it like? Was it like authoritarian as fuck? Was that they have freedom of press? They have a democratically elected president. They have, I don't know what their media is like, but like I'm just asking you. I don't know.
Well, when Ukraine was part of Russia, it was
No.
part of the Soviet Union.
When did Ukraine
I'll tell you this: it mustn't be great because
mustn't?
because virtually every Ukrainian I've ever met was always asking me about visas and
Yeah.
how to get to Australia.
So it was
And
really
you only hear that from them and Bangladeshis.
really.
Yeah,
So
it's a terrible country to live in.
Russia.
Huh?
Oh,
Ukraine.
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 Yeah.
And Russia, I suppose.
But doesn't
But that's
Putin-
actually
doesn't-
one of the big reasons why they wanted to join the EU in the first place, right? And that is to blaming Russia, because Russia was never able to like help Ukraine's economy to the extent where they don't even feel like joining the EU.
So life in
And
Russia
joining
would
the
have been,
EU could also be bad for Ukraine.
so-
Just ask Greece. Like they're not too
Yeah.
happy about that.
So Ukraine. When did Ukraine split from Russia? Technically, become independent?
When the Berlin Wall fell
Right.
in 1992.
And you think, and as you're saying, like life in Ukraine wouldn't have been great.
No, it wouldn't have.
No, it's basically just a nuclear waste fallout zone.
I know.
And it's obviously, like what we're saying here, just this puppet state between
Yeah.
bigger powers.
Yeah.
So there's no such... I
Now-
just highly doubt their elections are remotely democratic.
I know Putin's just like an autocrat, but doesn't he have a massive approval rating in Russia?
Well, I wonder what his approval. I was saying that on the last pod, but after this, I wonder what his approval ratings are like now.
Did he have it?
Well, massive.
Hard to
I don't
say,
know,
hard to
but
say,
like,
hard to
it's,
say.
it's hard to say. But like, a lot of Russians like Putin, but now I think there's a lot of Russians that would be pissed off by Putin, and a lot of powerful Russians because of these extreme sanctions. These Russia has had sanctions for some time, but some of these sanctions are
Now.
really drastic.
Yeah.
To the point where even China, who was staying neutral, is now saying like, we don't like these sanctions because they see that it could also happen to them at some point. These are really draconian. It is also actually helping China and Russia eventually figure out a way to create an alternate financial system because this is so this is again not good. None of this is leading to something positive.
What's the trade sanctions that are drastic?
So they've blocked Russia or Russian banks, not all of them, but a lot of Russian banks, from using the SWIFT system, which is like some kind of
PayPal.
Yeah, it's like a financial transaction authorization. So if you're in Russia and you want to do business with anyone outside of Russia,
Not allowed to.
you can't because your payments aren't going to go through.
That would piss off oligarchs.
That would piss off oligarchs a lot. I think
Not that they care, they'd have so much money.
It could actually even potentially lead to regime change in Russia, where Putin might actually have to go. If this ends up badly, this is a perfect way that dictators end up going. Losing wars will bring down the best of or the most popular politicians.
What is Putin's like dream situation globally, like for like Russia's place in the world?
Well, he would hope that all of Eastern Europe would be part of the Russian bloc and not the Western bloc.
Right.
So that all of these countries can be buffer states. So if there's a war between the Western forces and Russian forces, then there's a lot of space between Moscow and the front line for him to manage it. That's his ideal scenario, but right now the war is literally at his doorstep because Ukraine...
Yeah, it's fucked.
If Ukraine falls under Western guardianship and Putin actually loses, then in the future there could be an even bigger war.
Yeah.
Because then there's no buffer state. It's like straight West and then Russia.
It needs to be
Nothing in
diffused.
between.
Something has to be diffused.
I think
It
it's
has
in
to be.
American interest to create that buffer because why do you want to have a really
That's what I
angry
mean.
Russia?
That's what I'm saying. It's like, I don't know. What the fuck's the? What was the intention of NATO?
Well, NATO
To
was
do this.
What?
No.
Yeah, come on. It was basically to just contain Russia.
Yeah, well, it was to contain Russia.
To push Russia or
But
to contain Russia?
incentivize.
They would say contain, but they mean push.
Just like to make sure that if any country is attacked by Russia, then all countries join together as a law to fight them.
I mean, America's got a pretty big military. Is that necessary? I don't know. Fuck. I don't know. It's
I don't know.
It's fucked up. It's fucked up. It's brutal. Coronavirus was bad enough. Like, fuck. This decade or whatever is fucked.
In other news, there were 2 recent studies conducted by 7 different countries that concluded that coronavirus did not originate in Wuhan lab, but it originated in the wet markets. So I want to make enemies everywhere.
No, cool. That's good news. I'd rather that. Rather it from a bat.
Jesus, this is gonna be fun. I had fun on this pod. This was good, guys.
This is sick. Like,
I am ready to bid thee farewell.
I don't know. Like, it's so
The Kramer poster and now this, eh?
It's just crazy that like we're not down the line saying like the ABC points, and it's like, no. It's like, fuck, sorry.
But this is the whole thing. Just know this, everybody watching. Ali really did just find a bull ant's nest and just repeatedly kick it in. There's no point. No matter what you say, there's going to be a bunch of dickheads online that watch a particular streamer that are going to be sitting there saying this is a bad take and not backing up why it's a bad take. And if they do back it up, their take will be terrible. Right?
It's not sport. It's not supposed to be sport. That's the problem with all this.
Maybe I should just like do the whole Joe Rogan thing, which is completely ignore comments. Like, forget that world even exists.
Well, yeah, welcome to my world. It's a beautiful place.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing. I've just reverted back to being 8 years old because the only coverage I ever had, and this is what I've enjoyed so much about it, is pretty much my last memory of the Ukraine was from the Sunday program on Channel 9. And then you'd see that, and then you'd hear people being like, there are tanks in my town. I'm very worried. And that's all I've had. And it's a better place to be, I got to say. I don't like being an adult and thinking about, you know, these issues that are just so far removed from anything you can do
Possibly
or add.
yeah.
But that's where Ali likes to live.
Coda.
There is a reason he claimed that this pod was, quote, fun.
Coda said NATO is purely anti-Russian alliance. They barred them from joining on multiple occasions.
But that's not a good thing to say these days because people are going to go at you. But that's what NATO was literally developed for.
Yeah.
To contain Russia.
Yeah.
So obviously it's going to be a scary thing for Russia.
Yeah.
But either way, I don't know. Maybe these bigwigs know more.
No, well...
This is a really strange thought.
No,
what would the world be like without NATO? And I would imagine it would probably be a lot more peaceful.
Probably. I mean, I don't know. Like,
keep NATO, but just don't do it
But
with
why
like
do you
border
need
countries
to keep
of
NATO?
Russia.
There's a thing called the EU.
Yeah.
And that's
pretty
what
strong.
you do. Yeah,
Pretty
like you
a
just,
lot of countries.
you know what worked well against Russia so far? Just putting sanctions on them. You don't need NATO for that.
I
Yeah.
agree. I don't know.
I mean-
it seems like it's one of those situations where it's like peace under any circumstances. We aggressively have to go for peace. What if that results in war? Still, that's the antithetic. That's the opposite of peace. You know what I mean? It's like peace. We need peace right up to war. It's like that's just like insanity. Doesn't the complete opposite things? You're gonna peace. We'll all die for peace. Everyone on earth can die for peace. That's...
I tell you what, it does remind me of Bill Clinton talking about negotiations, and he just said that you always have to give a person the out and for them to save face. Every time I was bargaining with North Korea, all they ever wanted was for me to just watch one of their parades. And I said I wouldn't do it, but I would really like to do it. And that averted a war.
He was also one of the biggest advocates for NATO.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
I think that this is probably just what's going to happen. They're just going to give something to Putin that he can run in his papers and on his radios that he got a big victory.
Well,
but it's
one
going
of-
to be tiny, but that's all he needs,
Well,
really.
you can't.
yeah.
We already kind of know what Putin wants as a face saving. He wants Ukraine and the West to officially recognize Russian sovereignty in Crimea. He also wants Ukraine to be neutral and not pursue to join EU or NATO. These are like his two demands. Now,
I don't
the
reckon he'll get either.
Crimea, the Crimea is a
Crimea's-
low-hanging fruit.
Yes.
He can
Yeah.
definitely get that.
You think he can definitely get it?
That's
I don't
in
think that they'll
Ukraine,
want to
right?
officially recognize it, but they'll give some bullshit statement out that can kind of be construed as that.
Yeah, either way, if in effect if it does that, then Russia could face save. Now again, it depends on like if Ukraine is able to resist and actually give Russia a tough fight, then they perhaps don't even have to agree to the non-NATO and EU. Like Russia needs to withdraw from that place as a loser for them to join NATO and EU and not cause a lot of damage to their country. But anything short of that, they would at least have to, on the surface, agree to some sort of neutrality for the time being. And then who knows what happens 5-10 years later. Maybe this issue will again resurface. But Putin needs an out. He needs one desperately. Otherwise, this occupation could go on for some fucking time.
But isn't that in his interest?
What?
Isn't that in Putin's interest?
To keep the occupation?
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. It's not in his
Right.
interest. I don't think he even intended to occupy that country. He actually miscalculated. He thought that this could be a very Crimea-like operation where he goes in, he secures the Donbass region, he does like a quick change of regime in Ukraine, gets the fuck out of there, and everything's going to be hunky-dory.
right.
And America's going to put in some bullshit sanctions. But obviously that didn't happen because the there's still fighting going on. So clearly Russia hasn't won just as yet. So his timeline's already been fucked over.
Yeah, it's
We'll
daunting, It's daunting. It's like hard to even read the news because you don't want to. You're like, I don't want to. It's just, you want a situation for like peace overall, for the world in terms, and you know what I mean? But fuck, man, like it's like, it gets it gets so complicated when it's happening, when it's like a war.
Let's talk about something more happy. What are the floods like in Queens?
Oh, Jesus Christ. Yeah, what
Floods.
the? I'm so glad we're in our 30s, not our 20s.
Why?
Because I feel bad for people just hitting 20 now. Because it's like when we were 20, it was like the worst thing in the world was like, AIDS is still rampant, but there's pills for it. It's not even that big a deal. And now...
Are the pills getting better? Yeah.
Yeah, and now, you know, like, I couldn't handle this in my 20s. Like, in my 30s, it's hard enough, but, like, it's just, I feel bad for the young
Yeah, but
Boomers had
stuff
it-
like that happened.
Yeah, but not on
while
such a...
we were in our 20s. It's
Not-
just you weren't paying attention.
Not
to it.
on such a fucking dramatic
I
global
think the
scale.
world has
not on,
become a lot more turbulent
not like this.
now than
not like
it
this.
was
There's wars.
in the 90s.
There was wars, but it wasn't Russia and America.
Yeah, true. It was two other huge superpowers, US and Afghanistan.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly.
Israel and Palestine, but that's been
Yeah,
on
of
course.
fire
When, isn't
since
it?
like
That's just like
big
that's like the burning hole in Turkmenistan. Just never goes away.
boomers had it really good. They were
Well,
born after the war.
After the war, yeah.
The longest span of peace, no pandemics, no
Yeah.
massive wars, bought
Cheap
houses
houses for
Has
like
anyone ever said that before?
$10,000.
Houses, yeah.
No, but
Yeah,
it's
the
true. They won
houses.
houses on horse races, basically.
Well, they did. I think two's family friends legitimately won a house in the Shire
There you
at
go.
a meat raffle.
Fuck me.
So a horse race was too much of a stake.
Fuck.
They put $2 in and they got a house.
They really.
And now it's worth $2 million.
Fuck. I really honestly feel bad for
And
the
they say
youth right now.
Vietnamese refugees had it rough.
What was the
Unbelievable.
biggest crisis that boomers faced?
No, come on. They had this all. Their entire life was this.
What do you mean? What are you talking about? The Cold War.
It was the Cold War.
Yeah, but the Cold War was just like, this is the Cold War. It was like, some proxy country may have made an advance. Can we get a check on that? No, we have no way of doing that.
Come on, you've just described Ukraine.
Dude,
No, it was
that
more
is
like-
not the Ukraine. There's
was
like,
like
tanks
Vietnam
running
and
over
shit.
cars.
Yeah, that happened everywhere.
It happened, but it
In
didn't
the
happen
Cold
so
War.
close to Russia that it could actually trigger a nuclear war. When the Cuban Missile Crisis happened,
Man, there was a few triggers in the Cold War.
yeah, the Cuban Missile Crisis when Russia was keeping
But
nukes
that was
in
one.
Cuba.
That was one.
Yeah, but
That
look,
was-
when the
There was almost a nuclear war because Nixon was saying like, it's not this Vietnam War, but only last 6 months. It's gone on to a year. Should we just nuke them?
Fuck.
You know, like,
But
it
Vietnam
happened a lot.
was like
That's
distant
fucked.
for both Russia and the U.S.
Huh?
Vietnam is like distant for both Russia and the U.S. I suppose the only country
Man,
that
I'm calling it. No, even though the scientists do say that we're as close as we were in the Cold War to a nuclear war. But the thing is, I don't seriously think any nuclear power is actually thinking about dropping nukes. Whereas in the Cold War,
Not yet.
They were. They were
Really?
just in a room, and then there'd be a bunch of guys in the White House and being like, "What do you say? Should we just put it on these Ruskies or what? Should we put on the big one?"
Fuck.
I think that maybe we should maybe call them first and see
Fuck.
what they say. Okay, well we'll do that, but then just get the trigger ready. You know, like
Really? I thought the
happening.
Cold War was like a bit of fun.
actually that is true. Like when JFK was in power, actually before even the Cuban Missile Crisis,
Yeah.
the intelligence community in Europe, in the U.S. at one point thought, according to their assessment, that they have a very, very, very strong chance of first nuclear deterrence, which means that they could destroy all of Russia's nukes before Russia could launch a nuke at other countries.
In the Cold War.
Yeah, during the Cold
Yeah.
War. And a lot of people in the U.S. intelligence community at the time were arguing that maybe we should just do it. And
Yeah,
let it
they
go
were
that
thinking
way.
of rolling the dice with a nuclear war. Rolling the dice.
are you
Maybe.
serious?
We've got a 70% chance of winning.
I
I don't like those odds.
I think it's also worth pointing out at this point, cancel or not cancel, and I don't know if this is true, but he told me this, that in the Cold War, for every fact check it, but for every nuclear sort of, whenever it got close, you said it was the Russians that killed it and stopped it. They deterred the Americans. Is that right?
I would like to find an example of the Russians being the aggressors in the Cold War.
For real though?
I honestly think that there was actually one that I was reading about some Russian admiral on a nuclear submarine, and I can't remember the backstory to it, but it came down to him, and he was just like, I'm not dropping my nukes.
Fuck.
There's an academic, American academic who researched on those flashpoint scenarios, and he basically concluded that what saved the world from a nuclear war was having all three players involved being pragmatic and logical. So you had JFK, who was pragmatic and logical. You had, according to him,
he was pretty
Khrushchev, who was logical and pragmatic.
I agree with that.
And he also said
The
that
shoe banging guy.
Fidel Castro, for all his flaws, was logical, and that averted the nuclear war. If you had an extremely impulsive president, someone like Trump, or as Putin has now demonstrated that he can be too, it could have gone anywhere.
Jesus, for the balance to hang in the hands of like specific neurons firing in the specific cunt's brain is just pathetic and ridiculous.
And that's the world now. So I honestly think that one day there will be a nuclear strike. It could come down to that, but I honestly think it'll just come down to neglect. It'll be
Which is even more pathetic.
Much more pathetic. And just because of a huge surplus of nuclear arms that no one could ever possibly use. And so they forgot about the ones in Nebraska because they've just been there for ages and thought, oh, yeah, Bill's handling it.
And taken over by the Tea Party.
Yes.
It is very...
And launch it on California.
Spot numero uno. That's the first spot. That's the first spot that is like...
We're going to deal with China later,
Target.
but first, California.
Time to put those elites in their place.
Target
Damn
zero.
Hollywood.
Target zero. Los Feliz, LA. It is
George
fucked.
Clooney eats there.
It is just like...
Yeah, someone mentioned the GFC. We forgot about that, but that's our generation. GFC was also a huge...
Not for us. Yeah, it was fine here.
That's it. Thank you
great.
very much, Mr. Rudd.
Yeah, Ruddy.
Well, not just that, like, people were unemployed, but it kind of broke this capitalist system. We're still facing repercussions of GFC.
Yeah. But it's always like that, isn't it? It's a cyclical thing every 10 years.
Well, GFC was, like, not a cyclical thing. GFC could be compared to, like, the Depression.
Yeah. But honestly, like, unemployment was high here, but it was, like, one of the best in the world in terms of the...
Yeah, because of Handball King and China.
Now there's a... Fuck, you know what? I'd love to hear Rudd's take on all this. I would love to hear what Rudd has to say about all this, about Ukraine.
Rudd
Well, just to
hates...
give you guys a preview, I'm having an interview with that.
Really? You better ask him. Not all this talk about fucking... Well, what the hell are you going to ask him? Keating was good, right? Yeah, let's talk about that again.
Well, I'd like to anyway.
Yeah, I know you'd like to, but for fuck.
Well, you've got to pick his brains on foreign policy.
You have
too.
to fucking
I
ask
think
him.
it's more important.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
How many times has he met him? I haven't asked him.
Oh, for fuck's sake. What do you think his take would be? Probably the same as Ali's. Like, de-escalate it, try to...
Well, I'll tell you what. A big reason that tension has been de-escalated between China and the US is Kevin Rudd and his think tank. He really is... one of the few... He is that secret phone in the 60s that still had that with the little buzzer on it. Just being like, it's the Kremlin shoot. That's him. He's that little beep who's just being like, Ruddy's here.
In his fucking mansion, the Gold Coast, being like, what is it? I'm just about to have dinner.
I've got something to tell you off air.
Okay.
It's hilarious.
I've got something to tell you on air.
Go.
Scott Morrison, during this entire invasion, when people were like, what the fuck's happening in Ukraine, he came out and he said, it's absolutely reprehensible. China is giving a lifeline to Russia. And I was like, so is India, motherfucker. He's your coalition partner. Do you know, like, the United Nations did a vote to to basically say that Russia fucked up with this.
Right.
There were 3 countries that abstained: China, UAE, and India, which is partners with us in the Quad. So I don't know. I understand how Scott Morrison can come out and say that China's giving Russia a lifeline, but so is one of your most strategic partners. So
Yes, yeah. Why didn't you say that? And it's also, again, it's not helping. That's not what you should be fucking
really
saying.
Not. It's really
That's
not
what
helping.
you should be saying.
In fact, it's so detrimental.
Yeah.
Because really, it's kind of pushing China into having a statement, if anything.
yeah, because
Yeah.
China
exactly.
to this point
Polarizing people more and more and more.
For what? Because you
Political
get
points.
re-elected
Political points.
in Mackay.
Yeah, but can you explain this to us, Jordan?
I knew Mackay would be the end of it all. Chuck that here. Yeah, goddamn smoke.
Joe, can you explain this to us? Apparently, the news is saying that Scott Morrison's like China rhetoric during the elections has backfired.
So happy about
How the hell has this backfired?
It's backfired. I don't know why it's backfired, frankly, but it's just because common sense always prevails. I always thought that the Australian public, purely for how many negative comments we get when we say anything remotely positive about a sixth of the world's population, but
And which let's remember, China ain't no Russia. China is not just an oil exporting gas country.
no, they also buy yabbies.
They're one of the biggest economic and military powers in the world. And China doesn't seem to be as impulsive as Putin because they clearly haven't launched an invasion of Taiwan
They're
yet.
really level-headed. You know what else as well? This is something that's just so good. I was re-listening to Keating talking about it, and essentially his point is, tell you what, Kerry, if only you knew how little the Chinese think about Australia.
Who said that?
Paul Keating. He was just like, dude,
damn.
you know what would solve all of our diplomatic tension with China? If we were nice to their diplomats. If we let them sit down on the good couch, not the fold-out one, and they come into the Prime Minister's office, and then after that, everything would be sweet. Because they don't care about... why would they? It's nothing to them. It's like, okay, it's slightly easier to attain iron ore than it is in, say, Central Africa that they're developing anyway. They don't care. It's us that... But this is the whole thing, apparently. They don't care. The Australians don't care either. Australians, for the first time, I think actually it's just that there's polling on it. I don't think they've ever actually done this before, but Australians trust Labor's handling of China over Scott Morrison's.
Sick.
Well, they
That is
actually did a
nuts.
poll for that.
That's what I'm saying.
And
That's
the
sick.
results were like surprising to me, but most Australians think that Labor would be better at handling the China relationship than Scott Morrison is.
It's an amazing point, and I think I'm just going to be hammering that from now until the election,
Yeah,
which is
you should
you
be.
want your wine bought, don't you, South Australia?
Not just
then
that.
kick out Nicole Flint's successor.
Yeah.
The other thing is Chinese Australians, which are about 1 million. Like
Really?
it's not a small amount.
Fuck, I'm not pro them anymore. Yeah.
I usually vote Liberal, and according to ABC's polls, are tilting towards Labor now because of the Chinese rhetoric.
Wow. I thought that they'd be tilting towards Liberals because of their rhetoric, but there you go. Shows how much I know about people that I can't speak the language of.
Well, that's
I've got to say, it's a really promising sign for the election. That, and it's not exactly trusting the Labor Party over the economy of the Liberal Party, but, and I think this is just as good, most Australians believe that the Labor Party will handle the economy better for the average Australian, which I think is pretty much the same as saying they will handle the economy better. So I think, and here's my big prediction, first off, Russia pulls out of the Ukraine tomorrow and it becomes a Russian Iron Curtain state. That's my first big prediction.
Jesus Christ.
Saying a big prediction, Taiwan will invade China.
Oh, yeah, great. With their tech.
What's that?
I don't know. Aren't they a tech hub? They're just
Oh,
Tamagotchis.
yeah, that's right.
Just
Yeah,
pegging
microchips.
chucking Tamagotchis.
And yeah, well, they're one weakness in their defense shield. And my other big one is I actually think that the Labor, this is going to shock you. I've never predicted this before. I think the Labor Party is going to win. I just can't see what out Scott Morrison has. He is campaigning on, I'm going to take away your free speech and you should be very scared of China. And Australia is saying, I want my free speech and I'm not that scared of China. Good outcome.
Yeah.
Very good outcome.
Silver lining.
And a great outcome for Australia just in general in terms of their diplomatic impulse.
It's so funny too because it's kind of like, this is what it comes down to, from my opinion anyway. It's like, we can't have this marketing strategist, egomaniac, top end of town, obsessed, like tax cuts for the billionaire, hard anti-China guy in. We need someone who's the same but just 10% less. Someone who doesn't have as bad a rhetoric and actually cares about the country. No, I said it. It has to be done. Yeah. Is it so extreme? Like, is it so extreme?
We need a leader that is not going to say needlessly dumb shit that wipes $20 billion off the economy because of a headline.
Yeah, we need a leader that's very reasonably aggressive, but just tones down the rhetoric a bit. Sometimes it'll be the same. We need him.
You should be writing your ad campaign. So
I know
good.
I should.
So good.
Step 1, change the colour, but step 2, we'll talk.
That's actually a really good way to put it. You know how you're always saying, what's the difference between the two major parties? You're right. Vote Labor.
Yeah.
Well, okay, well, you get it.
Exactly. There's no difference. Vote Labor.
You talk right to it. This is something that I've been thinking about a lot. It's actually because of the Neil Cole-Hackar podcast. I think, and this is something that will just shock everybody because this is definitely not a Stephen Crowder point. But I think that politics is fairly cultural.
Oh, right.
I think the reason that you can talk to people and say, okay, would you prefer a government in that has these stats that are all at the top of the developed world, all at the top of the OECD, all at the top of the world, because usually this is a huge bar for a developed nation, but usually developed nations beat developing nations in economics and everything. And then you come to the Liberal Party, whose best brag is sometimes we beat Barbados, right? Fuck. Yeah. Normally, to the average person, you could say, just look at those stats, instantly they've changed their vote. I think that because I have a very skewed view of the world from not ever entering the world, I'm to the point where I say to Miss Love, who is suburbs away from me, and I'll just be like, Miss Love, I need a bag of lettuce. And he'll be like, I'm on it. And then in Miss Love time, it'll come to my doorstep in 3 to 6 business days. Almost as good as Amazon during the pandemic.
Hopefully it's not off. I can't make nature work for me. I can't control the plants.
It is truly remarkable how much of a cave hermit I am. Remarkable. I've really hammered being agoraphobic. I've taken it to another level. But I think as a result of that, I'm somewhat skewed with my view of the world, and I think that I'm constantly just inundated with Palmer United voters and Greens voters, essentially. And I started looking at what they're saying and saying that they're just repeating the same points, and it doesn't matter what you say. You can make a video saying, here's why you should vote Labor. This is why they are empirically better than the Liberal Party, and then they will come back with their talking points of, yeah, they're saying, what about Adani? What about refugees? Don't you know a little thing called Dictator Dan? There's a bit of a clue in the name. Lol, cry laugh emoji. They'll come back with the same thing.
And they'd win. And
they do win in terms of pure logic, right? But I think...
Sorry, it's so good. That's so funny, man.
That the average human being, when they hear those things, they think, yeah, sweet, and then they change their vote. And then, because this is the thing that I'm getting when I'm coming into stand-up shows again, because that's my only connection to the outside world is people that really like me
Coming up and
talking to me afterwards, and then I'm just like, wow, I'm very popular.
You know, I don't have to change a
Where's
thing
all
about
this hate
myself.
coming
I
from?
don't have to change a thing about myself. If anything, I should just care less about what people think. Everyone loves me.
The old adage is true: be yourself, and everyone on planet Earth will like you.
But we
Putin learnt that the easy way.
we're getting we're getting a messiah though in Australia that's gonna fix all these cultural problems.
Who?
Piers Morgan, who's coming to
He's
Sky News.
coming!
I thought you were going to say Dick Smith.
He had his chance. Now it's time to move over the big guns, which is very ironic for Piers Morgan's stance on
On
guns.
guns. I am
He's
not
coming
prepared.
to Australia in
Can
quotes
you handle
to
it?
cancel the cancel culture.
I'm not prepared to have him on our airways.
He's-
I hate him like from a two-pronged thing. Like I hate him from like when I see him interview extreme right-wing people. I'm like, God damn lefty. And then I hate him in terms of the fact that he's just ScoMo. I'm like, fucking right-wing conservative. He gets both for me. I'm like, you suck.
You're right. It's kind of just his face sort of sucks. That's the problem. He is Scott Morrison, but with a slightly more pointed nose. So a few extra points than Scott Morrison. But you're right. He's got that very unimpressive face where you're just like, hey, why are you the highest rated show in Britain? Why?
Yeah.
There has to be someone with a better face.
Is he the
Jimmy
highest
Carr,
rated
okay,
show?
fair enough.
Murdoch gave him a $50 million deal to come to Australia.
Good Morning Britain, he was pulling in numbers.
Really?
He was doing it, bro.
It's because he's like an old Thatcherite, right?
No, I think it's just because he spent so much of his life on the floor of Murdoch's tabloid press. He knows exactly how to play trash media. He knows exactly what opinion is going to ignite, exactly which one is going to level out. I think that's why he's just got a sixth sense for saying the right thing to Britain specifically. It obviously didn't work in the US, and I don't think it's going to work here because, you know, this is something that I don't think he understands about the culture wars of Australia. You know what we really hate? Pompous cunts.
Smug cunts.
And is there anyone on earth more pompous than Piers Morgan?
Nah, he's the.
I think he's like King Charles seems like a down-to-earth dude in comparison.
I agree. It's not going to go well for him. It's going to be like.
As Dome King used to say, he's just a tit.
Yeah.
It's the perfect description. Tit with steel wool on the top of it as a wig.
Yeah, he's a tit. He's a
tit.
Just like, ugh, that's so lame.
So you don't think he'll
But having
be-
said that, though, I do respect the hustle. I have to say that. He's amazing at getting a reaction.
Yeah, but why did he... You know why he quit his last show, Good Morning Britain?
Oh yeah.
Because he hated Meghan Markle.
No, he hated his fellow cast members. Pretty much he's a sitcom, isn't it? It's just Faulty Towers Season 5.
Yes.
That's Good Morning Britain.
Yeah.
And he's obviously, what's his name? John Cleese.
Yeah.
And then the guy that he got really angry at was obviously Manuel.
Yeah.
And I think that he quit because they would not see the genius in his points. Like, he was on the pulse when it came to the Britain's opinion of Markle or whatever her name is. But they all had that Downton Abbey elite view.
Right. He's
And
got
so
that.
hey-
He's got that good. He's got this almost like the Tucker thing of like he culturally is like a shipyard dock worker, but economically Thatcher.
Have you seen Tucker on Russia?
Don't you think?
Is he economically Thatcher? Has he ever talked about economics in his life?
Well, for someone
I mean,
who
he's-
hates cancel culture, he talks a lot about cancel culture.
No, but I don't think he'd be like I don't think he's voting Labour.
I think he's voting Tony Blair when the sun tells him to.
Right.
And he's voting Johnson when it's not.
Gary Johnson.
Gary Johnson.
Wait, what are you talking about? Aren't they both Libs?
Him and his views on guns.
Aren't they both
one of mine.
conservatives?
No. One of them is a Labour.
Oh,
Blair
really?
was
I think he just does
Right.
what the Murdoch press does. He is truly a machine that is finely attuned.
Right. So no real political affiliation.
I think he finds it all rather boring and would rather talk about the Queen.
By the way, just have you guys?
That's
you,
a way to make money.
You,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
mentioned Tucker. Have you seen Tucker's take on Russia?
No, but I can
So
imagine
funny.
it.
It's very
Nuclear
similar-
option now.
It's similar to Herman Cain. He's like,
Oh, what is his take actually?
Russia has not poisoned my country with all of these toxic views. Russia is not teaching race theory at schools. Russia is not, and then he's like, and you are surprised that I'm more pissed off at Biden than Russia.
Shit.
That's how it's done. That is how
He's getting a
it's
lot
done.
of hate for it, though.
Is
But
it?
that's cool because like
Really?
the old
I
school.
think
the
that
same mob that
everyone on planet Earth is getting hate for opening their mouth about
Yeah.
the Ukraine, except for that one British man that has definitely had several divorces that works for the BBC, and every time there's just one conflict, and he's the one lone correspondent in each part of that world, and he's just like, okay, it's Mildred's time to shine here. Everyone likes that guy at the moment because he's wearing the war hat. Going,
Right.
I'm standing in Kiev,
Yeah.
and I'd have to say that the mood has been brighter in the past.
Yeah, but wouldn't have the? I feel like that's kind of cool of Tucker because I feel like the new Republican rhetoric is like popularist, don't invade other countries, focus on America, like pull out of all these conflicts.
Paleo-conservative.
Whereas there you go, whatever he's
Well,
just
do you know
said.
Bill
Whereas
Maher's
the old
theory
school
on why
Republicans.
people like Tucker and some Republicans really like Russia?
Because they're white.
Yeah,
Really?
basically. You've seen it?
Yeah.
But like,
Apparently,
but-
according
but-
to Bill Maher,
Jesus, Bill Maher has hung out with way too many people on MSNBC.
Yeah, but don't you think that's generally like a better thing that Republicans probably aren't? They're not like they were back in the day, where it's just like drop the big one.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, for sure.
Well, that's good. That's really good.
Yeah, but
Yeah, I
if
guess
it's,
so. I'd much prefer if they had any concerns for the environment whatsoever. But
There won't be an environment if
Yeah.
they drop the big one.
or if they don't
yeah, well,
drop
at the very
big
least,
one,
just put us out of our misery. One or the other. Do something about climate change,
Right,
or,
drop
the big one.
Right,
Do
right,
it.
right. I'm gonna have to watch. I'm gonna have to watch Tucker's take.
I'm going to have to watch that as well.
yeah.
More or less because I like watching Tucker Carlson, despite the fact that he does oddly look like Piers Morgan now. That I think
Kind of
about it.
does.
He's just a
bit,
younger,
Yeah,
same curly hair.
yeah, he does look.
All right, we've got to do some cleanup in this room. All the shattered glass.
Yeah, we've
So-
got to do that. Oh, and also, I would like your suggestions in the comments. I don't know if you know about this, Ali, but this is my next big move that will get several thousand views. But I want to start interviewing a bunch of academics about their field because I've got the theory that surely a man that has spent 40 years studying teacups from Afghanistan probably has something interesting to say.
Yeah, to say about teacups.
Yeah, I know more.
I'll be asking them about Crimea, obviously, but yes.
think-
You got your
big
expert
teacups.
right here. You
I
don't
think-
need those fancy degrees.
That's a really
You don't
good
need a
idea.
fancy degree to have an opinion on old terracotta.
I've watched a lot of Antiques Roadshow.
You probably do have the same opinion as him, let's
Yeah.
be honest, but that's the big experiment.
No, but it is a good idea.
Basically,
What do you
the only
think of
reason
that?
that I want to do it is because I am sick of reading for a year straight to get the material for my stand-up shows.
No.
I just want them to point me in the right direction and say, read these.
No,
books.
it's a good idea. He wants to Roganify it a bit so we get some experts on and we can talk to them. I think it's a good
For
idea.
sure. I think
Why the
that's a
hell
really
not,
good
you know?
idea.
I mean,
Yeah.
they might not be. This is a little downfall you might not have considered. They might have this much charisma, and this is an entertainment medium.
and
But
they will
let's-
be talking a lot of the time.
But let's give it a shot.
Yeah, I think that's... Look, it's pretty much just because I've...
You're out
the
of
whole
ideas.
time that you're sitting there just talking about Russia, I'm like, Byzantines,
Yeah.
Byzantines.
You got to stop
So I
fucking
need to
doing
think
that
about-
too
Yeah.
when you interview the academics. You've got to at least pretend to be
Engage.
interested in what they're saying.
Engage.
I'll make sure that the thing that they're interested in is
Interests you.
engaging.
Yeah. And you can do that. You used to be able to do that really well.
Before
You
he
really
holds
lost
himself
it.
up.
There's just a few conflicts that for whatever reason they just don't hit me. It's the same thing as when I
You
say
get
to people
obsessed with
I'm
stuff.
not that interested in MMA and people just look at me like, what the hell?
No,
It's
it-
the same thing. For some reason, I'm just not that enamored with Russia as a concept.
That's crazy. For me, it's like way more interesting than the Byzantines, personally.
Yeah, well, you're clearly in the right. Clearly.
Nah, why?
I'm just saying.
I'm not right. I'm
That's
just
how
saying
my brain works.
Everyone has their own interests, but I think that yours are getting more fringe and more obsessive.
And like, dude, let's talk about the real border conflict of 800 AD.
Yeah, exactly.
So much more fringe.
I mean, it is interesting, dude. Don't get me wrong. Your show's epic, and like, it is interesting. It's just, look, I I still have trauma from year 10 when I was just like, I can't wait to learn about modern history. And then my dad, how can you learn about modern if you don't learn ancient first? Damn it, he thwarted me. And then 2 years of ancient being like, hate this. And I know that 3 classrooms down, they're talking about Hitler. But I can't do that because my dad said I have to learn about a civilization 2,000 years before Hitler because there's a massive connection between Pompeii and World War II. But that's my cross to bear. So,
and your first, the audience is talking about. So they really want you to interview Xi Jinping.
Yep.
Can you arrange that?
All right,
Yeah.
we'll get that for
next week.
second interview. Second interview.
Marilini
Right, first
says,
the Byzantine guy, then Gigi.
The guy from the Sydney Uni professor, then the Prime Minister of China.
Yeah, he's got nothing better to do.
Marilini says, interview someone smarter than you. Impossible.
Yeah, well, that's
very
Jesus. That's a
very
high bar.
sweet. Yeah, that is a high
Interview Piers Morgan.
That'd be amazing.
That would be so good.
Oh, and obviously, Stig? You have to get in contact with Alex Jones again. That's
By the way,
Yeah.
speaking of Stig,
Batman.
he's in Brisbane and the floods have been so bad. His house was flooded. All of his housemates were in the water was belly deep. And
Yeah, that's right. I sent him a conciliatory, sucked-in message.
Look, you got a week extra, right? That's fine. You're busy. You're in
yeah.
you got problems.
And
No, put the computer on a little floaty. You know those ones that you had when you were learning to swim? I'm sure you've got them in the attic somewhere. Do
just
your work.
swim down like the Titanic, hold your breath and go down into the basement to find the floats.
Yes.
God.
And I assume that your computer isn't water damaged, seeing as it's already up to your neck, right? And if it is, that's on you, Stig.
all right, well, thank you for joining us. We'll
Act of God. I thought you were an atheist, mate.
maybe see you next week. if-
Don't quit. We're joking,
Survive.
dude. We love you. I hope you're okay. Let us. I mean, send messages if you need. I don't know, wheat bix or whatever.
Yeah, we could send you a flood package if you want.
Yeah.
We'll start a
Poor
fundraiser for the
Queenslanders.
Stig.
For sure. That could be a good idea. I mean, I don't know what he's... I just sent him a nice message, but I would have thought...
How about this? We send him a lot of Thai desserts. Just
Full
a
circle.
bunch of
I was gonna
bunch
say-
of sugar.
I thought you'd
Beans.
say... I thought you were going to say a box of roses, like Cadbury roses, but that's worse. So.
Yeah, so that's not happening.
All right, well,
Don't say stupid things. Listener.
we might start a GoFund.
Well, let's see how he's
page, or
going. God,
we probably
we
won't.
all live...
No,
Look,
because we don't want to.
Let's-
Because we're too lazy to give a
but
fuck.
let's be honest. We all do live in our own bubbles. He might be like Guantanamo Bay style, but we also live in our own fucking bubbles. So we'll make sure he's okay. Thanks for listening. If the world is still a thing by next week, we'll see you next week. Join on Patreon to get more exclusive behind the scenes takes. I don't know what we'll talk about. We'll probably just keep talking about Russia. There you have it.
Adios.
Do I click end?
Yeah, click in.
Bye.